what got me into music. I was very into video games, and what really made the games for me back then were the soundtracks, and the soundtracks were actually what helped me kind of get into the mood. And I realized over time as I grew up that music and visual aid kind of really flow together really nicely, and if it's done right, it made me feel really satisfied and very inspired. And honestly, the person who really got me into making electronic music altogether was my mother. My mother was the one who would play the old school 90s music. She would pop in the CDs in her car of Paul Van Dyke, Ian Van Dahl, DJ Sammy, Armin van Buuren, Judge Jules. And I remember as a kid, I heard those sounds, and that's what started it all for me, was hearing that music back in the early 90s when I was growing up. I've been producing music for probably about 16 years now. Yeah, about 16 years. Professionally, I've been producing music for about a good 10 years. I mean, along the way, I've had help from numerous people. I've collaborated with so many wonderful artists, and I've actually I've actually produced songs for people as well. It's been a really awesome journey, and there's still a long way to go, but I've reached a point in my life where if I brought myself 10 years ago to the future, I would be completely blown away on where I am right now. And I'm just hoping that maybe another 5 or 10 years later, I'll be at a new spot that I'm completely blown away with my current state. Well, for music, I use a program called Logic Pro X, and I've been using that for about 4.5 years now. I started off using a program that everybody else did, which was FL Studio, aka Fruity Loops. I was about 14 years old when I got that program, and when I received that program, I started experimenting with the sounds, and I started to kind of really fiddle with it's a very easy software to use. At the same time, it's a very complex software to use. But over the course of the years, I actually, really learned how to use other programs. And then when I picked up Logic Pro X, it really became the doll that was to my liking. And I just really enjoy the interface, how it feels, the way it navigates through, all the all the parameters and all the plugins. It feels nice. It feels really nice to use. Well, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, I'd say about a good $4,000 to $5,000 from some of the keyboards I've had, the synthesizers I've used, the monitors I use, the laptops themselves, the computers that I have, the mics that I use, the MIDI controllers, the softwares that I've bought, the plugins that I've bought. Yeah, all of it ranges between a good $4,000 to $5,000, and that just takes, that's called investing. You got to invest into what you love, into to your passions. Well, what's funny about it is that we actually started filming the music video last year around this time. When we were filming the video, we had to work around a lot of our schedules. I remember the co-star in the video, Brandon Stillwell. She really wanted to be a part of the video, and I was really excited for her enthusiasm. But the problem was that we had to work around her schedule a lot, as well as the film director's schedule. Vincent Quaranto, he is head of Super Q Photography. He's the one that's responsible for filming the video the way he did. Even with him, working around all of our schedules was really difficult because we all had so many things going on. I know that I had a lot of projects going on my end, so filming that was definitely a challenge for me, and a challenge for him, a challenge for Brandy. We all had our own thing going on, so. But in the end, it worked out. We finally got to finish it this year. We finished it we actually finished it a few weeks ago, and we're really excited about it. I'm really happy with the way it came out, and I'm really excited for its release. So the thing about Resurface was that it's actually a remake of an older version of it. The original song, which when I go back to it now, I'm like, ooh, oh, I made that. Yeah, I kind of cringed a little bit at it, but that song actually also came with the music video. We did our own music video for it, and it was supposed to be released with my friend, fellow producer, Joseph Fisher. he released an album. I forgot what the album was called, but he released an album that went on a record label called Redbox Records. There was a dispute between Joseph and the record label, and apparently Joseph wanted a single release of Resurface in addition to it being put on the label. And apparently the label didn't want to put it on a single release. They didn't want to release it as a single after the label or after the album release, and that caused the conflict between Joseph and the label. And then they actually ended up removing the entire label from, or I'm sorry, they removed the entire album from the record. So now it was officially like, you know, up for re-release. Now with this new version, with the actual version that I feel really proud of, I'm really happy with how it came out. I'm really excited for its release, and yeah, I think it came out so much better than the original. So very much like the one in the past, very much like the original Resurface that was made in 2014. It's a story of myself and my ex-girlfriend. And there was a point in time where we both were very unhappy with our relationship. There were some very important things that made me very unhappy with the relationship, which caused me to make plenty of decisions that didn't make her happy. And with that, conflicting, arguments and disagreement, it led to us, ending the relationship. And one important thing that I felt like really tells the story of the relationship is I felt very dull. I felt very dull with how my life was going. I remember that it had been months since I had actually worked on a track and got to really sit down and do music. And when I came to that realization, it really made me think about where I was going in life. And in the very end, we decided to call it quits. She's the one that actually broke up with me, but we talked about it more so. And she was kind of hoping that I would say something or do something to bring it back and maybe save it somehow. But, in the very end, I knew it was it. I knew it was done. And, it's funny because this actual relationship has actually had a very big impact on me. What has inspired my music to be. And my relationship with her has actually inspired a lot of music. It's actually inspired a lot of upcoming music that I'm really excited to talk about in the future. But yeah, when you see the video, it very much reflects on when it was good, when the relationship was nice, when it was bright and beautiful, and then it shows when it was kind of falling apart. As far as detail goes, it doesn't really show much of that. It just shows more or less the basic concept of it was bright and beautiful, it's not bright and beautiful anymore, it ends, and I'm left with the memory. I'm left with the memory of, what had happened, everything that happened in the past. And so it was more or less, it was about the overall relationship. It was about from the beginning to the end. That's actually a deep question, much deeper than you might think. If anything, I do regret not taking certain things into consideration. I regret not being more careful about certain things. I regret not being able to focus on myself. I think maybe if I did, things might have been different. But at the same time, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with where things turned out. For a while, I felt like coming back to San Antonio, because I was living in Austin at the time. I was living in Austin with her. I actually felt like, I was running back to an old life. At least that's how she made me feel. And I kind of felt that was true for a little while. And after everything that's happened in the past year and a half, I don't regret anything. I don't regret coming back to San Antonio. I've met tons of new connections. I've made plenty of new friends, and I mean, and not to mention, there's some big projects coming out because of my decision to come back to San Antonio. So as far as that goes, I do not regret coming back to San Antonio. I'm very happy that I did. The pool scene, going underwater and staying there for 10 to 12 seconds was difficult. There were times where I would go underwater I touched the floor. I'm like, nope, can't do it. Got to go back up. I remember like Vincent, a funny quote. Actually, I'm gonna quote Vincent here. While we were filming, he goes, "Are you okay? Like, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." He goes, "Remember, we don't want you to die. We just want you to almost die." And I was like, "Great, Vincent. That's some good words of encouragement." The other scenes were actually pretty hard to film as well. Like the scenes where I'm, having an argument with Brandy, because there were some scenes actually that we filmed with Brandy where I actually felt like I relived some of the actual past, and it actually made me feel really like it was surreal, and it was a little scary to actually be in that moment. I'm like, whoa, this is awfully familiar. This is almost too familiar. But other than that, physically, the most challenging scene was the pool scene. That was definitely the hardest scene to film. You can find my music on, iTunes, Spotify. I'm on BEATPORT. You could find my music at trackitdown.net, Amazon MP3, and YouTube. It's on YouTube. I don't just make trance music anymore. I make other styles of dance music. I make a lot of experimental music, and I think a lot of folks, like, they all went down that direction too. Like, they all don't just make what they started off making, and that's okay. I think that's very okay. There are a lot of folks out there who still do that, and again, that's also okay. My greatest idol, Gilbert Carrizales, the guy that really inspired me to be a musician and to make music and to perform it live. Even he makes music like outside of his box. He still predominantly makes trance music, but he doesn't only make that. And there are a lot of people out there who get pressured to only make what they start off making by their fans and by their crowds. And if they don't continue to make that, then they sell out, or they're not staying true to themselves. I think that's very wrong. Like, I think it's very wrong to feel like you're only limited to one genre. So if I had to give any advice to upcoming producers, make what you feel. Make what you feel. Get with somebody that can help you make what you're inspired by. Don't make music for money. Like, in the very end, when you can, stabilize yourself, when you can actually have a career out of it, then of course, yes, treat your passion like your business. It's important to do that. If you do it because you love it, the stability and the financial part of it will merge together very nicely. But again, make music that you want to make. Don't feel pressure to make whatever people tell you to make. Get help. Nobody can do it by themselves. Like, I didn't do it by myself. I had plenty of help to get me to where I am now. Yeah, I do plan on releasing music in the future. This song, Resurface, it's actually like the first part of the story to a grand, plethora of songs I'm going to release in the future that ties to the overall story and my feeling towards, the past 6 years or so. And Resurface is the first part of the story. There's another song coming out called Bittersweet. There's Traveler coming out. There's Ascender. There is Star Beacon. There's Stardust. And then there's the EP coming out that I'm really excited about called Godspeed. And that EP is completely different than what I've been making. Godspeed is a very synthwave 80s style genre, and I'm really excited about that. I'm actually putting together an entirely new project outside of my name for that EP, but it still ties to the overall story, and I'm really excited to share that in the future. And yeah, there's a lot of good music coming out in the future, and I'm really excited about it. So yeah.